summary, so we see that in the beginning there are two people who enter a very strange kingdom, that is a kingdom of fools. So Guru and his disciple visit this kingdom. So what happens is Guru and disciple, they used to move from one place to another, one kingdom to another kingdom, to preach their good teachings. So as they visited this kingdom, they were very surprised to see that everybody was sleeping during the daytime. So as they were astonished that why everybody is sleeping and why nobody is going on work during the daytime, they were more surprised to see that at the night time everybody was awake and they went on their work. So basically at night everything was back to life, which was supposed to be at daytime. So as Guru was very shocked to see it, the second surprise which came to them was that everything costed the same. Everything costed the same, from banana to ghee to whatever you purchase in the market, everything will just cost you 1 2. That is currency basically. So people, they were enjoying it, and somebody who thinks that it is fine, he would surely enjoy it. But Guru found it very strange that why this is happening, why people are not giving the value of the things according to the money, and instead of that everything is for the same currency, for the same rupee. Now Guru, as he found it very strange that because everything was actually reversed by the king, Guru finally decides to leave, because he knew it very well that this place is not safe at all, because this was the kingdom of fools, where everyone was a fool who was following such orders, where day was night and night was day, where people were sleeping in the daytime and doing work at the night time. So it was completely reversed things which was happening, which was actually done by the king. So that's why Guru decided to leave this place, because he knew that if he would stay over in this place for a longer time, the king and the subjects who are very foolish would actually give him some troubles. So Guru, he decided to leave the place, but disciple had stayed on and enjoyed the food, because he thought that everything is so cheap over here and he would never get something for that cheap. So that's why he stayed on, in order to enjoy the food and in order to just enjoy everything that he found it very different. Now as a disciple was eating lot and lot because it was so cheap, so he became very fat just within few days. Now we see that this was the story of Guru and the disciple. Now there is another part of the story where we will be seeing that how the king and people who were living in this kingdom, how foolish they were, and how these two stories are finally connected at the end. Now we see that one day there was a thief who broke into merchant's house. वो चोरी करने के लिए merchant house में he came over there by making a hole in the wall. So he made a small hole in the wall in order to get into the house, and as soon as he was trying to take away all, rob everything off, the wall of the house collapsed and it fell onto him, and this thief, he died. Now because the wall of the house was very weak, and because of the drill he made into the walls, because of that the wall has collapsed and fallen onto him. Now clearly we see that it was mistake of the thief, and it was the thing that thief has done a crime by entering into somebody's house in order to rob or to loot. But thief's brother, he went to the king for justice. First of all, there should be no justice. Thief was doing something wrong and it was an accident which could happen with anybody. But still, as it was kingdom of fools, so that's why we can believe everything can happen, any possible thing can happen over here. So thief's brother, he went to king for justice and complained that merchant should be punished, because it was the house of merchant and merchant is responsible for building this weak wall, so that's why merchant should be punished. Now as we see that in the beginning I told you that king was foolish, his subject was foolish, everybody was fool over here. So as king was so fool, he could not come to a correct decision, he could not at all make a good and fine decision for everybody. So he just calls on the merchant for actually giving him punishment. So when he called merchant, he asked merchant the reason, and merchant then explained that first of all, merchant pleaded that it was fault of bricklayer. So merchant, he said that I'm sorry for the loss, king, but it was not my fault. It was fault of the bricklayer who built the weak wall. It was fault of bricklayer who was not at all responsible person and who has built a very weak wall. Now, after this, the king thought for a while and decided that yes, merchant is right. It is the fault of bricklayer who has not used very strong material in order to build the wall. Then king called for the bricklayer. He called upon Gear. He sent his people and the bricklayer was called in front of the king. Now, when bricklayer was called in front of the king, again king asked him, to which bricklayer replied that he was distracted by a dancing girl while building the wall. That while he was building the walls of the merchant house, there was a girl who was dancing outside and moving up and down, and her anklet was making lot of noise, which was actually disturbing her as she was moving up and down. Now what happens? Let's see. Now next we see that dancing girl was brought in, and when she was brought in, again the king asked her the reason that why she was dancing and disturbing the bricklayer. To that she replied that she was not dancing, she was just moving up and down the street to the goldsmith, as she has given some important and some very valuable jewelry to goldsmith for herself. Now, as goldsmith was a very lazy fellow, he kept on delaying the work, and she was moving to and fro in order to ask for the jewelry whether it was ready or not, and that's why the anklet in her feet was making lot of noise. Ankle was making lot of noise, to which the bricklayer was actually distracted. Now dancing girl has blamed goldsmith for this work. Now again what happened? King thought that yes, it's right, dancing girl was not at fault, it was goldsmith who was at fault. So goldsmith was being called into the to the king. Now when he brought goldsmith, now goldsmith again had a reason, and his reason was that he was busy attending rich man's or rich merchant's order, as rich merchant had a marriage in his house and he was very busy doing that thing, preparing the order. So that's why dancer order was actually delayed, and that's why dancer was moving to and fro. Now goldsmith has his own reason, and he has given his own reason for why he was performing in this way and why he actually delayed the work of the girl. Now king asked who the rich merchant was. So rich merchant was none other than the merchant whose wall has fallen, his father. So it was father of the merchant whose wall has actually fallen down and who was actually the culprit in the beginning. Then what happens? Now a merchant cried and says that his father was no more. His father has actually died and he was not no more. But king said that as we as children are the real owners or the will owners of fathers or their ancestors, good and bad sins and all the property, so that's why it should be merchant who should be punished. And finally it was decided that merchant would be going to at stake, and merchant would actually die because of committing such a huge crime and killing the thief. So it was a huge chain. At the end, who was again killed? The first person who is responsible. Now what happened? A stake is being made by the king. Now stake is a type of way of hanging or killing people which was done at that time. There was a frame which was made, and on the top of it there was a sort of very sharp knife or axe which used to chop the head of the person. Now what happened? A new stake, as the stake was too huge and merchant could not fit into the stake. Merchant was very thin person, he could not fit into the stake. So king said that somebody has to die, because he was a foolish king. He had no brains at all. He did not think that if merchant is not fitting into this, so he could kill merchant in some other way. First of all, it was not at all merchant's fault. Okay, but the foolish king could not realize it. Now what happened? As merchant was so thin, so they decided to bring a fat man who could fit into the stake. Now, I hope you remember that in the beginning when I told you about Guru and his disciple, I told you that how his disciple who was eating a lot became very fat. Now, these two stories are connected here, that as king sent his men to find out a very fat man, so he could not find anybody else beside disciple, and so he was being replaced by this merchant. So, instead of merchant who was supposed to go at the stake, now disciple. Now what happens now? Finally, as he was going to be killed, so he finally prayed in his mind and remembered Guru, that Guru was so right, that it is kingdom of fools. All the foolish people are here and he should not be staying here for long, because you never know what these people would actually do. So when he finally was remembering Guru, so Guru came to the rescue, and he said that don't kill him. I am the one who want to die at the stake. So Guru requested the king that don't kill him, please kill me instead of him. So king was astonished that why Guru is asking himself to be killed. So then the king forced Guru to tell him the reason for it. So Guru told him that person who would die at the stake first would become king in the next birth, and people who would die second would become the ministers. So as king was so foolish, so he decided that the stake would not happen today but tomorrow. So he shifted the stake for tomorrow, because king, who was a very foolish person who wanted to become king himself in the next birth, he went on the stake and he actually died. He killed himself at the night when everybody was at the daytime when everybody was asleep. So he went to the stake and killed himself during the daytime, and then we come to know that king died, and not just king himself killed himself, but also ministers who were so greedy that they also wanted to become ministers in the next birth, they also killed themselves. So we see that Guru, who was a very wise person, very cleverly he got rid of king and his ministers, and later on, as people they came to know that king and the ministers have died, so they decided that somebody should be crowned as a king. So as they did not have any option, so they made Guru the king and his disciple as the ministers. Then when Guru came to the rule, so as he was a wise person, so he again reversed everything and brought back everything to normal. Now day was day and night was night. People were sleeping at the night and working at the daytime. So this was in this story.